The Tanchjim Fission. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a single dynamic driver IEM from Tanchjim that costs around $119. This is a sample sent out to me by Hi-Fi-Go, but I did kind of have to fight for it. I did have to ask for it multiple times, and it was kind of a challenge to get it out. Now, there is a black version of this. It is only available to international people. I do think it's super cool. If I ever had the opportunity to buy one, I definitely would buy it. So this is the rose gold version. But again, there is a black version as well to this. Let's start by looking at the build quality of this IEM, and then we'll make some comparisons, and we'll go from there. So I always compare with the Afu Magic 1 just because it kind of sits on my desk as one of those IEMs that, I often listen to, and it's easy access. But it has a nice, like this IEM, the Fission does not really have a lip. It doesn't really have, it doesn't sit in my ear well. I would imagine for tiny eared people it would work well. Now it does have nozzles that come off, which we're kind of demonstrating here. They are a little bit tricky to get off. It's not super bad, but it is something to note if you have a hard time getting off nozzles in the past. It's not exactly the easiest experience, but you could say that with most nozzles. Now there's a nickel, gold, and silver. I tried them all. For me, the gold reigns supreme, but it comes in a nice little set where you can kind of put them in and screw them in. It has a solid collection of tips, and it does come with a little device where you can adjust the bass. I do like a bit more bass, but if you for some reason want to adjust it, you could. Although it's not something that's easy to do, it does require the tool. One massive value add is that even at its price, it comes in with a USB-C DAC. It has 3.5, 4.4. It's really easy to take out. We'll show you here real quick. But I mean, it's a really nice value add at this price. And so this really gives this the ability to use anywhere and on almost any device. Awesome value here. One where they did skimp was the case or pouch or whatever you want to call it. Not super impressive, but at least they include something. The cable I was actually kind of worried about. I was worried that the cable wouldn't be very good, but it's extremely silky and feels great on the skin. It does have little blue left, right, red connectors. It does have very long cable terminations, so you almost have to use a very recessed 2-pin cable connector with it. You can see it has little ear hooks here. The Y split works very, very well. It has kind of a nice little Tanchjim Fission, which we'll take a look at here in a sec. There's the Fission. But I mean, overall, it's just a nice cable. I like the fact that it's easy to terminate. When it comes in a right-hand termination, it means when you grab it out of your amp, you're going to be able to grab the entire thing with how you pull it out, which is a nice thing to have. I kind of like the right-hand terminations with these. It's really simple. It's also easy to change out. One of the awesome things about this IEM is that it kind of has the same driver as supposedly as their more expensive model, the Origin. And the Origin's kind of beloved by a lot of reviewers, and I think it's a really solid IEM. And the thing about this IEM is that it kind of brings down that price. It does it with a very good value. Is it as good as the Origin? I don't think so, but I think it's very, very close, and we'll look at some graph comparisons in a bit. So this is able to bring technology of Tanchjim, of their more expensive drivers at a lower price, which I don't know if that's marketing speech or what, but that's kind of the rumor. To my ear, I personally really like it. I could easily daily drive this IEM, and I feel it's a very strong little set, and it gets a full recommendation for a lot of reasons. But I do want to be critical. There's been a lot of $150-ish sets as of late, and I do want to talk about the cons and the issues with this set and do a lot of comparisons for you guys. Let's start looking at some graphs. All right, let's look at the graph of the Tanchjim Fission. For now, we've just graphed the gold, but we might come back and graph more of these later, but we'll take a look at some of the other settings on someone else's rig. Again, has a nice setting, has not a ton of bass, but it does have a little bit of detail and warmth. I personally really like it. I really find it an effective tonality and tone, and I think it's really fun and it works really well. It has that magicness where, like, you know, when I first got into the hobby, if someone's like, is this good? Let me just tell you, I think this is a great set. And I am really impressed with it. Not only does it have a setting that works for me, it also has 11 other settings that you can mess around with, which I think is a value add to a lot of people. For me personally, I am a one and done kind of guy. I personally prefer maybe one, maybe two settings, and keeping it simple. But the Tanchjim Fission, I feel represents great value, and it does have some nice features to it. Sonically, extremely nice. Mark from Super Reviews has graphed all these, the nickel, the versions. Most of the versions will just mess with the bass and make it even less impactful. So if you're somebody that needs bass, I mean, you're just going to want to go with the default setting, but try the other nozzles. Again, I didn't like the nickel. I mean, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't super impressive. It felt like somebody was trying to add details to my music and be like, yes, hear the detail. I'm like, dude, I don't need that. I need the bass. I need it simple. I need it clean. And it didn't do it for me. So if there are other people that have those graphed, if you want to take a look at them. Let's look at the Tanchjim for you. Now, I like the Tanchjim for you, but it was like kind of like the similar shell. Its graph on my rig isn't exactly right. Actually, I gave mine away to a friend just because I wasn't very enamored with it. I think the fact that they have this gold nozzle really worked for me. If it didn't have the gold nozzle, I probably wouldn't be that excited about it. I think the Tanchjim for you, if you're looking at a much cheaper version, you don't need a USB-C. You're just looking at something with similar qualities. It might be worth it for the cheaper price. But my personal take, my base take is that if you want a pretty good set and you want to save some money, I would go with the Tanchjim Bunny. I really like the Bunny, and the Bunny is one of my favorite budget sets. It just works for me. I just listen to it. I'm like, that's a good tonality, and I enjoy it a great deal. So, like, if you're gonna save money, I would almost just say skip the 4U monitoring. Not a fan of it that much, and get the Bunny instead. If you want to get something a little bit better, the Fission does represent good sonic value. Now, if you want something even a little bit better, I do feel the Origin's a little bit better. It does have a little bit more detail, but if you're looking at something a little bit darker, a little bit better, you might like the gold better, the gold Fission better. I think it's close, but when I reviewed the Origin, I didn't get a sample of it. It was a borrowed unit from Mark from Super Reviews, and so I wasn't able to really get into that IEM as much as I wanted to. But I do think that it's fantastic. For me, it's extremely close, just relying on sonic memory and graphs. And I would have to say, if you're trying to save money, the Fission for sure. But the Origin does provide good value and better accessories, fit. But there are other IEMs coming out from Tanchjim. There is the new Force coming out, which looks excellent, which I believe I've secured a copy of that for the channel. I'm super excited about it. So there are other things to look at in the upper price, but I think the Tanchjim Fission as a price not only represents good value, but a nice set that I fully enjoy. As far as other things at this price, I mean, there is stuff like the Dunu Kima. The Dunu Kima I also feel is a really nice set, really nice accessories. I really think it's beautiful. It's one of my favorite sets at or around this price, and I think it might work for you better, depending on what you're looking at. If fit and comfort are better, I would go Dunu Kima. If sonic qualities and messing around with your sound, definitely a Tanchjim Fission Gold. But if you're frustrated by nozzles, if you're frustrated by messing with things, and you just want a simple set that's beautiful, that's packaged well, and that's good to go out of the box, boom, Dunu Kima 2 would get my recommendation over the Fission. If messing with things does not sound like a value add to you, and that's the subjectivity of this hobby, and it gets so close with things. There's a lot of other sets with similar tonality, like the Moondrop Aria 2 is out there. I do feel that the Fission is a much better set, but you got to take all biases in what you see, right? There is a lot of sets that have a similar tonality to this. And if this tonality isn't something that works for you, note that in your purchasing versions. Next one, I want to compare a few other IEMs at the price. The Keyfine Quatio. Now, I like bass. The Keyfine Quatio does provide that bass. I could see the Fission being slightly energetic. Let's normalize this at around, I don't know, 750, just because I think that gives us a good view. So the Tanchjim Fission gives you a little bit more warmth. The Quatio gives you a little bit more bass. The Fission gives you a little bit more upper mid. So if you're sensitive to upper mids, it could be a problem. For me, I will say the Fission works for me really well, and I would daily drive it. It doesn't bother me. I think sonically it just has a smooth sound. The Quatio does have a bigger shell. I think its nozzles are a little bit easier to work. I think it's slightly better packaged, but it's also a little bit more, and it does have a few less things, a few less settings to mess with. It's also like, if you're like personally, it's hard to justify, but there's something about the Quatio that didn't really sit right with me. Like doing ABs, I just think of it, yeah, that's a pretty good set. Like that's a pretty good set, but there's something about the Fission that I think, like when it dials in to the right settings, we're talking perfect setting to perfect setting, because of, they're both sets with tons of nozzles. I would go with the Fission over the Quatio. The Magic 1 is also another set that kind of has a similar tonality, a little bit more bass, a little bit different approach. The Fission is a lot better. A set is a lot more pristine, but it's just something to note that there are a lot of sets around this price. If you're trying to save money, depending on sales, you might be able to find something with a similar tonality. And since we always do our comparisons, I like sometimes bringing the Magic 1 in. So, I mean, there's other sets out there, like Kiwi Airs has another set that has a similar tonality. The Aeroso. Now, I don't think the air in detail, the pristineness, the stuff that's off the graph, like to my ear, is the Fission better than the Aeroso? Yeah, but the Aeroso has better fit. It's also a simple IEM. And I think it's one of those IMs that a lot of people haven't talked about, and it's kind of disappointing to me, because I think it's a really fantastic set and really enjoyable, especially with hip-hop music, because of its sub bass. I don't know, kind of my default recommendation is the Explorer. I would kind of go with the Explorer. It's constantly on sale for a little bit cheaper. It's a solid overall set. Again, one and done style set. The fit for me is a little bit better, but the build quality is not as good as the Fission. The Fission is pure metal. It fits ear tips better. It has USB-C cable and like a cable that you can switch out. I mean, there's just a lot of things to be said about the Fission. It is close. Again, if you're looking at a little bit of a bass, like a little bit of an L-shaped, you might like it better. But if you like your vocals, which, it's a big thing to talk about in this hobby, I personally would recommend the Fission over the Explorer. But if you want like instrumental tracks and air and really solid bass, the Explorer represents, like, I think I've told this story on channel before, but like one of my buddies who's a kind of a bigwig, he buys a lot of big sets. One of his favorite sets, no cap, is the Awful Explorer, right? It's a really fantastic set that can work for people. Because of its unique tonality, that some people just absolutely love it. I like it. I kind of prefer the Performer 7 above it, but that's just kind of me. Another set, like, look, when I say the Kiwi's Aether, I don't just mean the Kiwi's Aether. I mean other planars. There's other planars that might really work for you at this price point. I think the Kiwi's Aether is a little bit more expensive, but if you have an S, a less sure S12, that might work for you. It didn't work for me. I'm not a huge fan of it, but the Kiwi Aether does, and certain IEMs like that can represent really good value depending on how it fits in your ear and depending on how the treble peaks mess with you. It's really kind of one of those things that you almost got to try and demo it at first. Now, as we go up the chain, here, I want to give you two suggestions that I do think are better for just a little bit more. Sometimes in the hobby, it makes sense to spend a little bit more. Again, the Tanchjim Fission build quality is absolutely phenomenal, and it has a great value for packaging. But the EPZ P50, I think, is a set that could really work for people. Here, let's get rid of the Chopin for a second. And you can kind of see it just has a little bit more sub bass, a little bit more restrained upper mids, and it's just a nice overall tonality. Another one which you can actually get for almost the same price, maybe even used market, is the Chopin. I really like the Chopin. I really think they did a great job with it, and there's other sets out there. I think as far as detail and clarity, it's close, but I think for tonality and sub bass and overall presentation, the Chopin, I guess what I'm trying to say is there are a few sets that I think I recommend a little bit more, especially if you want that bass and need it. All right, let's talk graphs and how it does. I mean, overall, it's a solid set. Its bass levels aren't as great, so I gave it an 8. Its mids and highs aren't as good. I feel like this sits really well, and it could be a set that would work for people. Its air and detail are really pristine, really nice, and really what carries this set well. Its fit and comfort, you know, it has its problems. There's certain issues you can say with that, but it has a nice soundstage. It has nice details. It's an overall great set. All right, as we look at per price, and this is just a little tab on my ranking sheet that you guys can check out, I think it does well. I think overall the Explorer gets a slight nod, but there's so many reasons to go with the Tanchjim that we talked about. If you look at this in the Tanchjim lineup, let's change this to 7. But what we have here, I do feel it's a little bit less, not as good as the Origin. I do feel like the Bunny represents a fantastic value, and that's one of their more recent releases. I mean, you know, a lot of these, like for me, oftentimes if sets have too much treble, they come across brittle and they just don't work for me. But the Fission works fantastic for me, and I really enjoy it. You know, the IEM hobby moves quick. You got to know what's going to work for you. Do you need a small shelled IEM? Do you value the fact that it has a USB-C cable? Do you value the fact that it has fantastic sound? These are all some great things that the Fission becomes a very strong value IEM. Some people that are on stage need this. They might even enjoy the ability to tune down the bass. I like this IEM. I think they've done a great job with it, and it presents a good value to people. It gets an easy recommendation for anyone looking at it, and it gets a competitive nod that I think it's one of those sets. I've talked about it before on channel, but I believe in some ways it's like when I got in the hobby, there was a curse of $150 IEMs. Has there been an IEM that's really broken that and become something that's absolutely perfect? No. I mean, I wish that this had a little bit more bass, maybe a slightly different tonality, but overall, I do feel it doesn't, while not breaking the curse, it is a fantastic set and gets a strong recommendation. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
And I half expected it to be made of wood. You are without doubt the worst
audio file
I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris, or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!
You're mid. You're mid. You're mid. You're legendary. You're mid. Jaytis out.